Welcome everybody to another episode of Recreation Rooster. This is Dan Chiava once again, and I'm with my co-host Maisha Jones.
Hello, everyone. This is season 2 of Recreation Rooster podcast, a podcast that is for recreation and leisure enthusiasts. I am Maisha Jones, recreation therapist and co host of the show based out of Los Angeles.
Yes, I'm in North Jersey. All
Yep.
right, and mhm. Yeah, you see New York City right in the background. So, anyway, let's start with the quote of the day. Um, a wise person will make more opportunities than they find. And once again, a wise person will make more opportunities than they find. Um, you know, that's, I feel like, something that resonates because people, as you learn in life, there's always more and more opportunities that you could create for yourself. And that's part of what recreational therapy is about, creating opportunities for yourself.
Absolutely. I think it's so nice that you chose that quote for the first episode of season 2, in particular, because oftentimes with recreation therapists, even in the midst of play or in structured sport or in social engagement, we're constantly talking about executive functioning and how decision making, right, and forethought and how you engage with your environment and how you seize opportunity in your environment and how you make opportunities in your environment is really steps, right? So I think that this quote speaks volumes as to the great work that we do as practitioners in the field of recreation therapy for our clients and how we walk that path with our clients as they make conscious, informed decisions on what um, what journey they decide to take in their life. And different stages of life as well. Times with clients for years referral, but it is years of growth and understanding and journey and changing in life roles for our clients. So really do enjoy that quote that you chose for this episode. Great job, Dan.
Yeah, no, thanks. I mean, yeah, exactly.
And next up,
Definitely.
guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, music by Madonna, right?
And next up, guys. Yeah, next up, guys. So the song of the day is one that was kind of near and dear to me. Back in 2000, Madonna had a song that was named Music. And what I really loved about this song was it had a really nice up tempo beat, gets your body moving. And oftentimes I would use it whenever I was facilitating morning exercise or morning fitness. And what I really loved about the message of this song, Music, was that Madonna proclaimed that music makes the people come together, right? And that it was in 2000, there was a lot of turmoil, much like what we are experiencing today, right? That was causing divisions in communities, right? And so I felt like Madonna used her voice and her skill set, right, and her platform along with the lyricists in the band to create this song to bring people together and to evoke joy, happiness, unity, along with a groove, right? So the song I chose for today was Music by Madonna, and it was a part of her album back in the 2000s. Do you remember that song, Dan?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That was back when you were in college.
Yeah, I love that song. And honestly speaking, I mean, even today, I would jam out to this song. Like it's a timeless song. We're very fortunate to have such a provocative artist in American pop culture like Madonna. You mean she's always going to stay relevant. She's constantly evolving and changing and impacting popular culture. So I love to utilize Madonna's various songs in recreation therapy programs.
Yeah, and still performing, I believe.
Oh yeah, still touring, absolutely. Still touring and still shocking, awing everybody as well. So next up, guys, our next segment is advocacy. As you guys know, this is something that we have to embrace on a day-to-day basis as recreation therapists to preserve, protect, and to build awareness about all the great work we do. So today we are going to have Dan speak about a way that we can advocate for ourselves.
Yes. Well, basically, advocating for ourselves in pretty much everything we do is one of the best things uh, for the profession. You know, from going to conferences to speaking, having your elevator pitch ready, and promoting the profession using the your marketing tools from stickers to uh, anything else that explains what the profession is a big part of advocating for recreational therapy.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. And one thing that we spoke about prior to this episode was having incentive awards and bonuses for recreation therapists who are exceptional. Having merit based
Hmm.
incentives for our creme de creme recreation therapists, our extraordinary recreation therapists, utilizing these incentives, be it monetarily or other fringe benefits that a recreation therapist would appreciate, that makes them know that they're a value and an asset to the organization. Something that they can use on their free time with their families and friends, something that they see that would be a benefit to their livelihood and to their quality of life. There should be more and more opportunities for recreation therapists to have incentive awards and bonuses as well. We're seeing more and more of this happening on a day-to-day basis when it comes to hiring and recruitment. If you look on Indeed, if you look on Monster, if you look on USA Jobs, any of these platforms that hire, you will now see that recreation therapists are in extremely high demand, especially the best recreation therapists. Some of them have $2,000 sign on bonuses. That was unheard of when I came into the profession. We only see nurses getting sign up bonuses or doctors or physical therapists. But now we're actually seeing that organizations and corporations that they see the inherent benefit and asset of having a recreation therapist on their team when it comes to the revenue generating and also preserving health outcomes for their client base. So bonuses, yes. Incentive awards, yes. These are ways that we can advocate for recreation therapists. So ask for them. Definitely, if you're in a position to offer them, offer them. I know with my firm, I oftentimes do bonuses during the holiday seasons. I do merit-based bonuses for very exceptional contractors that work with the clientele as well. So definitely offer them and understand this incentive awards and bonuses, they don't have to be broadcast. It can be something that's done very discreetly, or it can be something that is announced publicly. And that's always at the, I would say, the preference of the person that's receiving the award. Yeah, so I think that's great, Dan. And I believe
Yeah,
that you actually mentioned this as a way to advocate for RTs. I think it's great.
yeah, indeed. Yeah, I mean, and that is good that to see that it is happening slowly, or whatever. So,
It
mhm,
really is. Yeah, so don't be afraid to be great.
mhm. Yeah,
Strive for excellence. Strive to wow. Strive to always be the best recreation therapist that you can be on a day to day basis. Because understand, even though you might feel like nobody's watching, guess what? People are watching. So yeah, I think that's a great way to advocate.
Mhm.
And we have our next segment. It's called Below the Surface, Rec and Leisure Subcultures. And we're going to have Dan discuss that with you today.
Indeed, yeah. Gonna talk a little bit about rock subculture and
Yeah.
basically the whole counterculture that goes with it. From I mean, really, you could think back as far back as the '50s with Elvis Presley. It goes back with those leather jackets and jeans and uh, the slick back hair, the greaser look too. It kind of evolved into the uh, the '60s with the long hair, tie dye, um, you know, look, and you know, all about really pushing back on American the establishment values that were pushing stuff like the Vietnam War and stuff. That was a big part of what was you know, really when everybody was pushing for civil rights, women's rights, against the war, etc. And you know, and that kind of expanded into the '70s. Um, and of course, I mean, you got disco and other stuff come the late '70s, '80s. But yeah, I mean, that's a whole subculture that I mean, some of the people from those days are getting older and stuff. That's your baby boom generation. But
Yes.
you know, that kind of remember all that and was there for all that. But it is definitely a subculture of people, and that really you go anywhere and you hear the songs, really. So,
It
mhm.
really is universal. I mean, I would even say it's galactic. We have two astronauts in space right now, and they've been doing some interviews, and they tell us about how even in space at the Space Center, they're listening to rock and roll. I tell you, it just makes you want to move your body. It's such strong vocals. I mean, to be a rock and roll singer, you have to have extraordinary vocals, right? And it is just like it's given so much homage to the electric guitar and to the bass guitar and to the live band experience.
Mhm.
Here in Los Angeles, I get an opportunity to go to a lot of live musical performances. And I just tell you, it's just something about, getting a really tight bass line with a strong vocal and then electric guitar. It really makes you just move. The energy is amazing. And then there's just been so many subgenres that have branched off from traditional rock and
Mhm.
roll, that it's going nowhere. It's going nowhere. It's here to stay, pretty much. And what I really love about rock and roll is another one of those unifying type of subcultures that you will go to a rock and roll concert and you will see all colors of the rainbow of people, all ages of people as well. And then you will see all different looks. The grunge look, you will see a bunch of leather. You'll see a lot of black. You'll see very creative hairstyles and makeup, adornment, that people have. And then also, too, like you were mentioning about how rock and roll has been a vehicle to impact change, be it
Mhm.
speaking on politics or international affairs like wars, conflicts. You will see that oftentimes people who are part of the rock and roll culture, they have more of an open mind about things. They have more of an inclusive mind about society and about the way that human beings relate to each other and interact with each other on a day-to-day basis. So me, I'm very much a rock and roll fan. Dan, who's your favorite rock group? Well, one of your favorite rock groups.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot. I mean, of course, the Beatles immediately come to mind.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, of course, and that's really what it's all about. It's just like being a comedian and stuff, that you're pushing back on the traditional establishment narratives that
Right.
are there.
Me,
And
I like Imagine Dragons. And I like a few others too. I also like alternative rock as well. So I'm definitely a rock and roll girl as well. I've just really learned to branch out my music repertoire, and I use it in programming. I use rock and roll in
yeah,
programming. The I would say the only drawback oftentimes is that if I'm doing any kind of programming where I have rock playing, the nurse is always like, lower the volume, lower the volume. Type of thing. But we make sure we keep the volume to a manageable,
it's
setting,
always those.
and
Mhm.
everyone has a wonderful time. They really do. Want to see a disassociated, reclusive client wake up? Play their favorite rock and roll song. You will see an immediate change as far
Yeah,
as dealing with them. It's a great trigger for social engagement.
yeah. I mean, you mentioned the moon landing as well as that was a big part of that time period when rock music was really big. Um, same thing with festivals like Woodstock, and I mean that was the most famous. But there was a hell of a lot on the West Coast. I mean, everybody had a little bit of back in late 60s, early 70s. I know San Francisco was one of the big places where the counterculture was big. Of course, Los Angeles and other places on the West Coast really where the kids went out to for those
Oh,
summers. Yeah.
and I really love the way that the silver screen, like theater, like movies, have embraced rock and roll. So when they're trying to move the storyline along, oftentimes they will use rock and roll. So, it's nothing for you to see, like Tomb Raider or another action packed, Too Fast, Too Furious or another action packed thriller. And then it's like that rock and roll is right in there. It's going to get you moving in your seat. So, yes, definitely rock and roll subculture is something that I believe that every RT should embrace in programming, and take into strong consideration how great the musical art form is. And next up, guys, our next segment is Behind the Numbers, where we talk about statistics that are trending and how recreation therapy can impact them. So go ahead, Dan.
Yes, and this is an interesting one. 69 out of 70 in New Jersey towns adopted resolutions about, uh, yeah, they adopted resolutions about stigma-free zones.
Hmm.
So, keeping, in terms of mental health and substance abuse stigma and going for help. Um, like I said, in reality, I don't know if we're really there yet. Stigma continues to be an issue, I'm sure. Um, but that is a step in the right. It's somewhat of a step in the right direction.
Indeed, it is. I mean, social stigma is something that impacts us on a day-to-day basis. It's very much a strong element of interpersonal relationship skills and managing your affect when you're around others, when you have perceptions or you perceive to be treated differently than others for one reason or another. It's definitely something that it adversely impacts folks, sometimes leading to depression, isolation, and even suicide ideation or even suicide attempts as well. So, knowing that there is a conscious effort for towns to have stigma free zones is amazing. It's a step in the right direction, even if it's something that cannot be 100% achieved. At least it is saying that it's not going to be tolerated, right? That it's not going to be tolerated, that we're not going to ostracize and marginalize and minimize people based on stereotypes. We're not going
Yeah,
to do, and I think that as RTs, a lot of times when we do our programming, we do try our best to have stigma free environments so that our clients can feel safe and can feel included.
yeah, indeed. I mean, definitely, and of course, Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot better than it was, say, I would say 10, 20 years ago for sure, 30 years ago, definitely for sure. So, yeah, it's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I feel like
Mhm.
now, though, I feel like with social media that we do have certain, groups like echo chambers where there is high concentration of stigma. But as far as, mainstream, like face to face, I feel like it's less. So I don't know. I feel like it's almost like two different worlds going on now, that virtual world. And then, of course, face to face, real life world. What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, social media is definitely a double-edged sword. I know definitely for kids, it's it makes organizing a lot easier for sure, around causes and other things. However, the reverse is also kind of true. I mean, of course, as kids, I mean, 20, 30 years ago, before social media, uh, yeah, 25 years ago, at least, there was no social media 25 years ago.
Right.
So, yeah, now, of course, you could almost kind of, kids could go home and forget about it if they're getting picked on or something like that. Now it's kind of, with the social media, kids feel like they can't get away from it.
Right. It
So,
can become a 24-hour
yeah,
assault.
right.
Truly.
Yeah. So, that's definitely a big issue. I mean, with kids, with bullying and that type of a thing, I know that's become a big thing. And getting kids off of social media a little bit, which is kind of what we do a little
Yeah,
bit, um, is also a big thing in terms of uh, moving that to where kids have a balance between them, a life outside of those people who are at the school.
absolutely. Yeah, balance is key. I mean, to imagine that a whole town is making a concerted effort to have a stigma-free zone, I think that's simply amazing. I
It
cannot
is.
wait to hear about, the list of these towns as well. And I'm hoping that it can be something that's embraced across the nation. I think that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is something that, look at the 69 out of 70 New Jersey towns. So, I mean, maybe,
Wow.
you know, the amount of towns that there are in New Jersey. So, I mean, that's pretty good that 69 out of 70 towns embrace resolutions. Yeah.
That is
I
good.
wonder
That's
which
great.
town is yet to do it. Hmm, yeah,
Yeah. I feel
right?
like this is a start though. Like this is the spark. You know what I mean? This is the start. It always has to start somewhere. So if it want, hey, if it's starting in New Jersey, hey, I'm hoping it makes its way all the way over here to California. Absolutely.
I'm sure it has. I mean, to be honest with you, I wouldn't even be surprised if California was a little bit ahead, to be honest with you, and stuff, because it seems like you often are. Sounds like you have some uh, pretty good uh, programs and services. You're in the school systems there. We're really not here. Mhm. So in a way, you're ahead in California. It seems like really, and so, uh, they actually follow kids' IEPs there. That's good. Uh,
Yes, that's true. That's
yeah,
true
they
as
need to do
well.
that here.
So I think I think it's embracing commonalities is key and understanding, I would say the collective good of things is essential when we make decisions. So I think this is one act in that direction, totally.
Mhm.
All
Right.
right, guys. Our next segment is Iron Sharpens Iron, navigating workplace dynamics. As you guys know, as a recreation therapist, hey, even though we enjoy our clients and we enjoy facilitating and treating our clients on a day-to-day basis, it's nothing quite like office politics. There's only a finite amount of room, space, resources, manpower and time, right? And money. So, with that being said, oftentimes things like community property becomes a strong topic subject that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So, with that being said, everybody's always encountered that one very territorial person at the job who believes that one particular office, one particular phone, one particular computer, one particular outdoor space is theirs and only theirs. One cupboard is theirs. One counter is theirs. That you're not to touch their papers. You're not to do this. You're not to do that. But the fact of the matter is this: when you work at an agency, all of those spaces are community property. Other than your locked drawer where you can put your personal belongings securely, everything else is community property. So, I've had situations where my office wasn't available and I needed to log on to a computer, and I would log on to any computer in the general area, and it shouldn't be a problem. We all have our personal logins and we can get in and get our work done. So with community property, there's just certain etiquette that needs to be in place. First off, not touching other people's things, not touching other people's personal things, right? Not rummaging through other people's desk. Calling ahead and requesting, hey, I need to use the computer for an hour. Can I come by at 2 o'clock? Use it from 2 to 3? Because let's be honest, no one's using their computer 8 hours in a day. So that professional courtesy is essential in navigating community property, just to ensure that no one is offended, no one feels violated or disrespected in the process of it all. And when we're dealing with folks who are territorial and they don't want to share community property, I would say one way that I do it is I do have a conversation directly with the person. And if I'm not able to get any leeway or traction with the person directly, then I do escalate it up to the next level in management so that the training can be done and there can be an understanding put in place. Unfortunately, one thing about us as recreation therapists, we tend to have a lot of supplies and a lot of equipment, multiple closets with a whole lot of stuff that we are responsible to procure and keep maintained. So, with that being said, we do tend to be territorial with our stuff. So oftentimes what I would do is I would set up a leisure cart for nursing to use. That way, let's just say there was poker cards or different games, and the nursing may not be as diligent in making sure everything returns back to the cart. That way, if things came up missing, I would replenish it. But my own stuff, I would keep it secure. So my own stuff was secured. It wasn't in a community property location. However, I would always make sure that there was something available for when I was not at work or after hours for nursing to be able to facilitate diversional programming with. What's your thoughts on how you manage community property, Dan?
Yeah, about the same. I mean, of course, I feel like it's good if you could get nursing to do diversional programs.
That too.
Oftentimes that doesn't happen.
That's so true.
It must be different on the West Coast, let me tell you, and stuff. Yeah, I have trouble getting nursing to do that on the East Coast. Yeah, so, but yeah, I agree with you totally. Mhm.
So, I mean, one thing I wanted to mention, because we were talking about community property. So, with that being said, I did mention a couple of things are community property. So, let's mention some more. So, I would say, first off, if you're an RT that shares an office space, like say you work on a unit and you are all inside of kind of the nursing station area, every inch of that area, especially desks, computers, telephones, that's all community property. Now, you may have a nurse who makes you think that that's not the case, but it is. All of that's community property. You may have a particular side office inside of that nursing station, which is for the charge nurse. So with that being said, for the charge nurse, no, that's not necessarily community property. However, if you ever have to do any telehealth or any kind of like virtual video conferencing and you don't have any other space to use, you can always reach out to your charge nurse and ask for a time slot. And most likely you'll be able to get a time slot to do your VVC or your telehealth in that charge nurse's office when that charge nurse is out conducting other duties that doesn't require that person to be in their office. A couple other etiquette things. So when you do use other people's offices, it's just best to not clutter it, keep it as clean as possible, not adjust and rearrange their chair too much, or if you do, set it back where it belongs. If you change any of the ergonomic settings for their keyboards or whatnot, change it to where it belongs, and then make sure that you log in and log out successfully, and that you try to keep the area as clean and tidy as possible. And then, of course, a very gracious thank you goes a long way. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And so a couple of places that are not community property. Let's talk about that. So if you go into the dietary or the nutrition closets and areas, anything that's patient food or patient fridge, none of that is community property. I have seen staff get into a whole lot of trouble for accessing those areas like that. I would say um, the closest thing close to community property in those areas may be the cups and then going to the ice machine. What's your thoughts on that, Dan?
Yeah, that's about right. I
Yeah.
agree. Hmm. Hmm.
Right, that's about right. So just always be mindful of those type of things. I would say dietary, they make sure they track and they account for everything that they send on the unit regarding nourishment and stuff as well. So always be mindful that that is not community property. And next up, guys, our next segment is tips for success in private practice. So, with that being said, I would love to talk about IEPs and what should be discussed within the first 2 minutes of an IEP when you are a recreation therapy contractor or evaluator, provider, right? So oftentimes first off, let me mention what IEP means, individual education plan. This can come in the form of an IEP or a 504. The difference between the two is that IEP oftentimes is for grade school level, pre-K through 12th grade. And 504s can be for 12th grade up into adulthood, up until 26. You also have individual program plans, which are called IPPs, that are often done in facilities that offer residential treatment on top of education and vocational and behavioral management services. So let's just talk about the first 2 minutes. First 2 minutes are super critical in developing a rapport and setting a tone of professionalism and awareness about why you, as the recreation therapist, are there in the meeting and why what you have to share is so relevant to all the stakeholders in the meeting. I oftentimes say the first thing you should always do is salutations to the stakeholders, not one by one, but salutations collectively to the stakeholders, and then a direct salutation to the client and to the client's loved ones who have joined the meeting. Super important. Then you are to introduce yourself, and you are to introduce yourself appropriately by your name, your full name. And then also you are to let them know that you are a board certified recreational therapist provider. Super important that you list that. Some people premise that if you're just meeting the family or the client and they've never worked with a recreation therapist before, it is always great to add in a question of, I'm unsure if this is your first time working with a recreation therapist. And if it is, they'll let you know yes or no. And then you can give a short 2 to 3 minute, not 2 to 3, but 10 to 12 second snapshot of why it is important that you're in that meeting. Then you proceed to talk about your evaluation and the top 3 prominent skill building or symptom management topics that you are focused on. I would also say it is always a good thing to talk about the standardized assessment tools that you use and how you are interpreting those assessment tools. So honestly, with the first 2 minutes, you may have about a 5 to 7 minute time frame for you to present. So within the first 2 minutes, I'll just reiterate salutations to the stakeholders and to the client and the client's loved ones. Introduce yourself, state why you were there. State the prominent skill building and symptom management topics that you were focused on. State the evaluative, standardized assessment tools that you are using to ascertain that information regarding the functionality of your client. That's your first 2 minutes. And you'll be surprised how quickly 2 minutes can go by. That right there alone might take about 4 minutes, but definitely within your first 2 minutes, definitely do the salutation, set the tone so that the clients and the client's loved ones know that this is a collaboration, this is a discussion, right? It is not a, I'm just going to tell you what I think and then you just take it. No, this is a collaboration and a discussion. It's inclusive, right? And it's client centered. So the client's preference is always considered, because if the client does not prefer what is being recommended, then the outcomes will not be good, right? And we don't want to waste nobody's time. And building that really good rapport with the client and the loved ones is so, so very important. So yeah, there we go, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt, that's definitely critical, and definitely critical with regards to, uh, you know, an IEP meeting where there's a lot of stakeholders and participant, and there's the participant, and then there's also all of the stakeholders, and of course, yeah, spelling out what those standardized assessments mean is also important
Right.
because yeah.
Absolutely. And because you don't want to get lost in the sauce. You got 12 stakeholders on the call. It can get confusing for the client and for the caregivers, the loved ones, about who they're speaking to. And oftentimes the RT may be, the second or the second to the last person to speak. So,
Right.
oftentimes what I do is I even request to get an opportunity to speak earlier in the call.
Sure, and then not only that, as much as possible, I would encourage the child to be there, if possible, because I mean, of course, they need to be invested in their own care as much as possible. So to have them at the meeting, and sometimes you might be the one that they have the best rapport with, yeah. So getting them there is, yeah, encouraging them to come and having you be there for them is potentially a big thing, and that's how you get kids invested in their care. So
Absolutely. And this one thing I would say, and I've seen this, I've observed this a few times when I've um, attended IEPs, is I've observed some RTs just reading their report. Never, never, never read your report verbatim. That is not what you're there for. You're there before the meeting begins. You are to read your report and interpret it and come with a summary. You are never to read a report verbatim. there's not enough time, number one. And two, that is not a good way to assert your skill sets and your expertise as a practitioner. Anybody can sit back and read a report, and these reports are already sent to all the stakeholders prior to the meeting, so they've already read your report if they wanted to, right? So now is the time for them to ask you questions, for you to interpret and summarize your report, for you to emphasize your recommendations, and for you to answer any questions that need to be answered, in an articulate way. And another thing too, make sure that when you are on, any in-person or any virtual IEPs, 504s or IPPs, that you are dressed business casual unless you're in the throes of doing programming. And even if you are, so state that, excuse my attire, I was in active programming with clients, and they will understand. But you are a professional, you are a provider, and you are to be respected as such. Yeah. And next up, guys, we have our next segment. It is called Nuts and Bolts and TR, where we talk about equipment and supplies. So with that being said, I know at Greater Los Angeles VA, we have a very robust aromatherapy program. And I know that many people who work in clinical settings, anything that is aromatic or aerosol is a no-no, right? However, there are certain clients that are selected to be appropriate for aromatherapy programming. As we know, when it comes to any sensory stimulation, the aromatics um, do invoke certain healing properties as well. Oftentimes with lavender, it's a great stress reducer. Oftentimes it's also used with guided breathing and also meditation. Many times different aromas will evoke memories, precious, enjoyable memories of childhood or of other experiences that we've had in our life as well. So, with that being said, the recreation therapists, along with our restorative health technicians, use aromatherapies in programming for select individuals. There are a select um, brand of approved aromatherapies for all of Veteran Affairs. And there is also strict protocol on how the oils are distributed in the quantities and the manner in which they're distributed with the cotton ball, and the way that cotton ball cannot be double dipped and things like that. And also the duration of the session as well. You know, you got to be careful. There's certain oils like peppermint and stuff that can be very hazardous when consumed too long at too much of a concentration. So always be mindful of that. I have found also too that the clients, they so enjoy aromatherapy and the excitement of smelling new scents and fragrances that they've never smelled before. Yeah.
It's a nice tool. It really is.
Yeah.
It's fairly inexpensive. It's just you could get a vaporizer and you could with water and yeah, and just get the different uh types of aromatherapy from lavender. Lemon is another very good one. Peppermint. Uh yeah, I mean there's quite a bit of different smells. I mean, uh, here autumn's coming, so like pumpkin spice,
Oh, yeah.
uh, yeah, uh, kind of thing. Apple pie, turkey, uh,
Vanilla.
uh, yeah, yeah. So I mean, really, it's a nice tool. I mean, that coupled with music, really can evoke memories. And I mean, it was also good with during the whole COVID-19 with the
Yes.
the social distancing and stuff. I mean, I went often room to room with and did like aromatherapy and therapeutic use of music, and that used to, you know lead to discussion and reminiscing and some things like that.
I
So
love that. I love that. And then when you go into wellness spas, I mean, I don't
Mhm.
understand why there's not more RTs that are in the wellness spa space. Because when you go into wellness spas, what do you smell? You smell eucalyptus, you smell lemongrass, you smell vanilla, you smell what's another one? Let me see. You might even smell like some menthols and how relaxing it is, right? You're in that Roman bath, the bubbles are going, you know what I mean? And so it's just like there's so much that you can do with aromatherapy. And I feel like there's so much that we as RTs can do to branch out to really bring recreation therapy into a lot of non-traditional spaces that allow us to capitalize on other, streams of revenue while we're doing recreation therapy. Like, it's just limitless. So yeah, aromatherapy, I enjoy it and I actually use it quite often. I keep a vial with me oftentimes as well. You might have a long commute to and from work, and you're on that freeway and it's just bumper to bumper traffic, and it's just it really transforms you or transfixes you out of your environment just for a few seconds, and it makes all the difference.
Yeah, definitely. Without a doubt, it's it's huge. That's aromatherapy is definitely yeah, I mean it definitely yeah, it can be used, you're right, in different ways. Um and yeah, it could be something you could carry with you or whatever, a fragrance or something like that that you could smell and that type of a thing. So um yeah, I mean, and yeah, that is true. I know how traffic in Los Angeles is. I mean, yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. Yeah, uh, yeah, I know. But yeah, so definitely, like I said, it's a very, very nice tool. It's very something that could really almost instantly calm people. Um, so you know, that's really critical for uh, what a lot of people, especially those who can't verbally necessarily express what's going on with them, even people with dementia and stuff like that, it could instantly calm them. So along
Mhm.
with music. So it's definitely a nice tool. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. The episode is about to wrap up. We have just a few more segments before we end. Our next segment is called the Therapist Friend, where we speak on clinical tips that can be used by RTs in their different treatment environments. Go ahead, take it away, Dan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think what we have listed here is, I'm guessing strategies to reduce behaviors. Um,
Yeah.
I'm guessing, and yeah, again, actually, which is kind of a nice segue because uh, music and aromatherapy is, uh, a great strategies to reduce behaviors. In a sense, like I said, that's something that kind of instantly calms people. I mean, of course, uh, in terms of reducing behaviors, active listening, uh, taking a stance that uh, you're kind of open to hearing what they have to say and building that rapport, that unconditional positive regard that we have for people can go a long way towards letting them know that we kind of accept them if having if somebody's in crisis, having a firm directive, by saying, okay, when you calm down, I can talk to you, or when you, uh, yeah, when you uh, 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 getting tired of screaming, then you can come and talk to me. Um, you can do this or this. So you can go to my office, or you can go into the quieter room, giving them like those
Mhm.
kind of options.
Yeah.
Lets
Given
them,
time. Yes.
Uh-huh, right. Yeah, lets them know that, uh, feeling like they have some control over the
Yes,
situation, uh,
absolutely.
well, is, you know, uh, a way to reduce behaviors. Incentivizing the desired behaviors and ignoring the behaviors that aren't necessarily, uh, as productive is another
Yeah,
strategy
fading and
that could,
extinction. Yeah, that's
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
tools as well.
Yeah, that's kind of the ABA kind of formula almost. Um,
Mhm.
you know, yeah,
And the beauty we have as recreation therapists is that we have so many ways to redirect behavior that does not require any pills, no shots,
yeah,
no physical intervention as far as force. Doesn't
yeah,
require any of that.
mhm,
Not even food. It doesn't even require food.
mhm,
And I believe that, when it comes to crisis de-escalation and dealing with, behavior modification, that more and more recreation therapists should be in the strategic planning and the research phases of these type of topics in the industry. Not just, boots on the ground, but really, really showing how non-invasive interventions does affect a positive change. Also, too, this particular segment, we are also focusing on how to reduce tension and discomfort, which is a little bit different than behavioral issues, but tension and discomfort. So when you think about tension, you think about the physical manifestations of stress on the body that results in the body locking up and getting tense and rigid. And then you also think about the social aspects of tension, where you may have a conflict with a peer and there may be a emotional tension, a rivalry between the two. And then discomfort, the immediate thing that comes to me is pain, dealing with pain, or a feeling of not belonging and feeling awkward or anxious about something. And RTs utilize a variety of interventions to address tension and discomfort as well, all within the framework of social engagement, leisure, recreation, hobbies, and different multi-step processes that happen during the facilitation of these activities. So it gives us a great repertoire of tools that we can utilize. We have to be mindful of how we document and how we prescribe these tools, so that not only does the client see the benefit, but that also other members of the treatment team, caregivers and loved ones, and also leadership see the positive benefits to what we do as providers. Yeah. And last but not least, guys, we have our Recreation Rooster stamp of approval, where Dan and I select a recreation therapist, a recreation therapy ally, an organization, an agency that has shown outstanding care to clients utilizing recreation therapy principles. And we chose for today the Paralyzed Veterans of America, better known as the PVA. They are a nonprofit agency that has not only an advocacy leg, but also a community outreach leg and a treatment leg. And it has very strong ties with recreation therapy when it comes to improving the life, legacy, freedom and independence, and health of veterans who have experienced paralysis while in combat. They have chapters and they have programs all over the nation and all over the world. They are a strong advocacy super PAC that advocates for legislation that improves access, inclusion, and accommodation for veterans who have suffered from paralysis. So, with that being said, The Recreation Rooster stamp of approval for season 2, episode 1 is the Paralyzed Veterans of America organization, better known as PVA. And with that being said, guys, that is the conclusion of our first episode for season 2, year 2024. We've been so happy to be here with you guys, starting our first season on the first Monday of January 2024, and we have not stopped, and we're going to continue to provide great content that's relevant to recreation and leisure enthusiasts, that promotes recreation therapy and all the great work in communities that we work with on a day-to-day basis. I am Aisha Jones, owner of New Horizons Concierge Firm and regional manager at Greater Los Angeles, VA. If you have any questions, you always feel free to reach out to me at info@recreationrooster.org or at info@newhorizons.com. And you can also give me a call for any consulting. I'm always open for consulting at 213-524-6925. Go ahead, Dan.
Yes, and I'm Dan Chiavo, Leisure Dan Consulting Services. You could reach me at 845-987-0104, 845-987-0104, or Dan Chiavo1 at gmail.com, Dan Chiavo1 at gmail.com. And grab a t-shirt. Go to www.recreationrooster.org. Check us out. You could, of course, go on YouTube and stuff. Recreation Rooster. So
Yeah, and if you want to book us for any speaking engagements, we would love to be a part of the process and the dialogue. The more that we talk about recreation therapy, build awareness and empowerment within the ranks, the better for all of us. We are truly stronger together. And with that being said, have a great day from the Recreation Rooster podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.